Hey y'all, Randall here with Coastal Fishing with Randall. I'm often asked about my kayaks and why would I fish in a kayak and won't they flip over easily and all those questions. And basically it's the same questions I used to ask over 2 years ago before I started fishing in a kayak. Now yes, I still have my boat and I love fishing my boat, and about 50% of the time I'm in my boat. But I will tell you, if you would have bet me a couple of years ago that I would love fishing in a kayak and would feel safe in a kayak, I would have lost that bet. I had the same concerns about flipping over and stability, and I found out quickly after using a properly designed performance kayak that they are extremely safe, extremely stable, and when you get in some shallow waters or you catch a trophy fish in a kayak where you're almost eye level, there's nothing better, I can assure you that. So today I'm going to go over two of my kayaks. I have three kayaks. I have a Hobie Lynx, I have a Old Town PDL 120, and I also have a Hobie Outback. All three of those are designed for different applications, and I use those for different applications obviously. But also one of the kayaks are my daughter's favorites that when they're in town they like to go out in, so I keep those around for that or for guests as well. First thing I'm going to talk to you about is my newest kayak, and that's the Hobie Lynx. The Hobie Lynx is just under 50 pounds. That's right, just under 50 pounds, but it's 3 feet wide and it is 11 feet long. This kayak is perfect to throw in the back of the truck, easy to put in and get out of anywhere you'd like to fish. There's a lot of people that fish in these in the front, out front of the islands in the Gulf, believe it or not, and they're very stable to do that. I've got friends who will catch blackfin tuna or a red snapper in this kayak. Now, I don't know that I'm brave enough to try that yet, but inshore, I would not hesitate to take this kayak anywhere. So what's different about a performance fishing kayak versus what we historically think of when we think of canoes and things like that flip easy? Well, I'm going to show you in a second the underside of these kayaks. It shows you how the hull's designed, and you'll see the stability is clearly designed into these kayaks. With both of these kayaks being roughly 3 feet wide that I'm going to show you today, there's a lot of stability in there. First today, let's talk about the Hobie Lynx. So this is my Hobie Lynx, and this is my Old Town PDL 120 that I'll talk about in a second. But today I'm going to show you how my Hobie Lynx is outfitted for me to fish. And most of my recent videos that you've seen, I've been in this Hobie Lynx. You will see it's similar to almost a paddleboard design, where there's roughly 9 inches of freeboard, which seems small, but even for a big guy like me, that's more than enough space out when I'm on the water. And believe it or not, it's a very dry kayak for its design. Now, if you have some strong waves and wind, yeah, it'll get a little wet, but I don't as much. It goes right out the bottom, so it stays dry all the time. So I'm going to talk a little bit about this kayak. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is my setup. This is how I set my kayak up that works for me. The neat thing about kayak fishing is there are millions of ways to customize to your fishing style. And so what I have on here is I have for the drive. What's different about a Hobie from an Old Town, Hobies are a fin type. They're fins, and the pedaling is almost like a stair stepper type, whereas the Old Town is a pedal just like you would a bike, and it's got a propeller on there. So this is the Hobie drive, and you can see the fins on here, and the way this moves is as you push the pedals back and forth, the fins will articulate back and forth, and that's what causes the drive. You have 2 straps on here, one that puts it in the forward position and the reverse, and all it does when you pull that, it changes. I don't know if you saw the fins flip around. That is what changes the direction of the pedal propulsion. Put it back in drive, and you see them flip. Now what this is this is a tether that I use, and I'll show you a little more about that. The reason why, if for some reason you ever drop this kayak while you're out fishing, you're in a bind. Yes, you have your paddle in there, but you're in a bind. But the way this thing fits in is there are some clips, and it just slips and locks into place, and then you are propelling yourself just by pushing these fins back and forth. Now, the neat thing about this is that I like the Hobie design. One of the things I like about it better than I do the Old Town is how shallow I can get. So you can actually flutter. You can see these are almost horizontal. I can actually flutter and been in almost less than a foot of water chasing redfish. So that is very, very important to me, and one of the trademarks, and why most people that have the Hobies prefer those. Now, in saying that, there are things about the Old Town that I like better about the Hobie, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute as well. So when I'm getting the Hobie Lynx ready for a fishing trip, one of the things I will do as soon as it gets in the water is I'll lock my fins into place. But I talked about the tether, and so what I did, this is aftermarket, I don't know if you can see it here with the shadow, but I just simply clip that in, and so it's tethered in, it's not going anywhere, and I know I'm not going to lose over $1,000 drive. The other thing that I have here is where I keep my fish, and this is a fish bag. I fill this with ice, it's insulated, and no, you can't carry a ton, but you can keep enough fish for to take home to eat. I can keep several flounder in here. I can keep good sized redfish or two in there, and so this works well for me, and it's something I really like. The next thing I'm going to talk about, and I talked about this in a post recently, was the seating in here. So the seat for this is very comfortable on its own, the mesh that's in here, and you can customize the height, adjustment of the seat, very adjustable for you, for if you like to sit up straight, if you like to lean back. It is very adaptable to that. But one of the things in all my kayaks you'll see here and you'll see there is I use kayak cushion. Kayak cushion is a proprietary foam that they use, very good small business, and they have the different shapes, styles, colors, custom brand, anything that you would like on that. And what they will do is you can order these in a soft or extremely firm. I like a firm cushion in mine, and these can get wet, they dry out quickly, and they still retain their shape. But I'm telling you, a long day in a kayak, I cannot imagine not having this. Now, one thing you'll see in the Old Town over there is you'll see this right here, and it's a lumbar. I have not added that to the Lynx yet, but I definitely plan on doing that. In the lumbar of your back, a long day, it sure makes a difference, and actually makes it pretty comfortable where you're not miserable the rest of the day. The next thing I'll talk about is I've added these straps. These straps are helpful for several things. One is when I'm lifting this, keep in mind this kayak's under 50 pounds, so it's easy to pick up by one person. You can pick it up from the front, which in the front you have a small lifting point right here, but if it's from the side, I have these straps that I just attach to the lifting handles. The lifting handles work, but depending on what I have in there, sometimes hard to reach to. But never ever lift by this H rail. It is for accessories only, and it's not structurally there for you to lift the kayak. That's not what it's for. But I also, although I have never flipped a kayak, I have intentionally flipped it just so I could practice getting back in the kayak, because you know, there is a possibility that can happen. Several things can cause that, but what would happen is I can use that as the lift up. I can loosen the strap and use it to put my foot in to get back in, and believe it or not, it's easier than you think. So these H rails are proprietary to Hobie, and you'll see it's got a rail inside there, and so you can add accessories like this or my box over there. And so I added that. That does not come standard on the Hobie Lynx when you purchase it, but it is an accessory I highly recommend, because I just don't see how you can fully customize your kayak without it. One of the things that you'll see that I've installed right here is made by Yak Attack, and it's horizontal rod holders. Now the horizontal rod holders, over the last year or two, I've become a huge fan of it, because when you have it in your crate, and I'll talk about this in a second, but when you have that, you're having to turn around, and as the years go by, it's a little rougher on the old back doing that. So having 3 fishing rods right here, and believe it or not, they don't get in the way. Even with catching fish, I've caught some very large redfish, as you've seen, and other large fish, and it's never caused an issue for me. So I do recommend, if that's your style, especially if you're fishing somewhere with a lot of trees or low-hanging concrete structure around pilings, this is the ticket, because you don't have to worry about your rods getting hit, scraped, or even breaking a fishing rod. So the steering mechanism on a Hobie Lynx is, you have a rudder. This is for your cabling in this tube right here, and then it goes all the way to your steering knob right here. You can put this on either side, so if you're left-handed or right-handed, either way, it makes it easy. But to deploy your rudder, you have this bungee type cable right here, and what you'll do is you'll quickly lift up on it, and you will see, and down it goes. And so the handle that I talked about to steer, just left and right. When you look back here, left and right, very simple. And if you hit something or you go too shallow, it will kick up. So could it break off? Absolutely, but it's not as likely. You'll see going down the road, you're required by Department of Transportation to have a flag, just like anything else, if it's hanging out of the back of your vehicle for safety and visibility. So I do recommend that. One other feature this has is a pre-drilled holes for a power pole, which is nothing more than a vertical anchor. So you would mount, it's a battery powered pack that'd mount right here. You pop this out, and so it would drive down basically a spike to anchor you in place. I don't use those. I have some friends who swear by them, but for the same reason that I use the horizontal rod holders, 'cause I'm worried about them getting hit or broken, I just can't get there with this, and maybe I will one day. We'll just have to see. So I talked a little bit about the stability of these kayaks, and so I'm going to show you underneath the Hobie, and you can see it's not a flat bottom, and so it's almost like you have sponsons or pontoons on each side, which gives you a ton of stability when you are on the water, and that's the key to the stability of this. I can tell you, I've leaned far to the back, to the side, and never felt unstable. Comparing that to the Old Town bottom, is you can see a lot of you have the same kind of design, but it's a little more robust and a little heavier duty, but you can see no flat bottom, so the likelihood of you flipping is extremely small. Again, that's 3 feet wide right there, and a very, very stable kayak. To give you another view of how the fins look underneath, you can see how far the fins go underneath. I talked about that, and you can see, excuse the kayak being dirty, I hadn't cleaned it from the other day. Talking about the H rails and the other accessories, a couple of things that I also added to mine. I added a Yak Attack rod holder. I have a cup holder, and that is sort of my catch-all. I put my fish grips, lures, different things, clips, they'll go in there, and it's readily available. And right in front of it, you'll see a connector, and that's where I put my other GoPro that faces me, and you've seen some of those in some of my videos, the action shot. So this is an accessory a lot of kayak fishermen use, and there are different brands. Wilderness, this is a Yak Attack Black Pack Pro, and there are many manufacturers that make one for your particular style. You'll take these bungees here to hold down the 4 corners, so it's not going anywhere, And then all the holes allows you to do attachments. For instance, I screwed this on. This is where I put my safety flag that you're required to have in your kayak. But what goes in here are, I'll have things like my sunblock, sunscreen, raincoat, bag of lures, all kinds of things that you can store that suits your need of fishing. Everything you possibly need in a kayak is stored in one place. And I do recommend, you know, having one of these boxes, because there are times I don't think you can just fit everything on this platform without some kind of storage. So this is my Hobie Lynx, and right now, out of the 3 kayaks that I have, and I never thought I'd say this, if I had to choose one kayak, it would be the Hobie Lynx. And it's just so versatile, works for me, so easy to use. People that know me will see this in the back of my truck many days, because if I end up going fishing, very simple to throw in the water. If I don't, no big deal, I bring it home. But give it a look. I think you'll be impressed with it if you ever tried it. But for the ones that are nervous about a kayak flipping, I hope what I showed you today and the specifications on this, that gives you more comfort. I mean, I'm a 220-pound guy, and when I started kayak fishing, I was about close to 80 pounds more of me, and I still was very stable and had no issue in these kayaks. So moving over to the Old Town 120 PDL. Now this kayak Old Town is made and owned by the same company that owns Minn Kota Trolling Motors, and very reputable company, been around a long time. Now the first obvious thing that I will tell you that's better, a couple of things actually, that's better about this kayak versus the Hobie, is this is as much as $500 cheaper than the Hobie Lynx. This also has a lifetime warranty on the hull, versus the Hobie only has a it's either 1 or 3 year, but it's definitely not lifetime. The drive, which this is a pedal drive, you can see you get the pedals, conventional pedals, and the propeller. This has a 5-year warranty. I had a friend of mine who one of the first ones I've heard to ever have an issue, and literally within a couple of days, no questions asked, it was replaced, and the drive was knocking on close to 5 years. No maintenance on that, and that says a lot about it. The other thing is the thickness. This thing is built like a tank compared to my Hobie Outback or my Hobie Lynx. So I use this kayak mostly when I am sheep's head fishing, because like I showed you on the Hobie, you have to pull the cables for reverse or forward. And if you're in the middle of fighting a fish, it's doable, but it can be a pain. Versus this one, you just pedal the opposite direction, forward and reverse, instantaneous. And that's very, very nice and convenient. This one is 12 feet long versus the Hobie Lynx 11 feet long. Both kayaks are 3 feet wide, so extremely stable. You have a storage compartment here. In this storage compartment, I'll put a few extra things. You know, this is where I put my life jackets and things like that that I might need. I also have a battery in there, small battery, that I use to power my depth finder. You know, when you're kayak fishing, you don't have to do the fancy items, just not necessary, but what it does is it gives your depth, and you can spot fish, and I use it. So you would just lift this drive up, and it sets down in the hole, and it clips in place. I don't think I can do it with my trailer here because it'll hit, but it drops in place. And these are your scuppers. And a lot of people think, oh Lord, I'm gonna be getting wet, water's coming in there. No, it runs out as fast as it comes in. There's never a time that I've felt unsafe being in these kayaks. A lot of people find that hard to believe, but that is the honest truth. This kayak has some pockets. You can put some lures in there. Again, I talked about my kayak cushion. This was actually my first kayak I ever purchased, and I love this kayak. If I was never to fish shallow water, this would probably be the kayak I'd own, for all the reasons I said earlier: price point, warranty, reliability, and the build on it. You got your grip handles here. This handle here deploys your rudder. Okay, and you put it back in there. Very deep well right here that you can put your box like we talked about there. You can put it in here, you can put other things. I added these tracks right here so I could add accessories such as this. You have built-in rod holders. But like this one is just under 50 pounds. This one is over 100 pounds, so double the weight. So that's why, not just if I'm carrying 2 kayaks, but for weight purposes, I put this on a trailer. Now, keep in mind, I have many friends that has the same kayak and they carry it in the back of their vehicle with no issue. I would not let that, if weight is a concern, I would look at the Hobie. If weight is not a concern and you're not in super shallow, without question, this is the kayak that you'll feel the safest in. It's got higher freeboard. As you can tell, you can look at a side-by-side comparison of Hobie links to that Old Town, and you feel a lot safer in there. Now, once you've used a kayak for years, it doesn't really matter because you have the confidence and you know the limits of your kayak. Now, one of the things I'll tell you how I load my kayak up is this. This is a Wilderness cart. Now, they make many different brands, styles, and so what happens is you will simply load the kayak on to the bunks and you'll roll it to the water and take it off. And I'll demonstrate that in a future video, but some people will just shove it out the back of their truck bed. You can do that. I've done that, but most people will use a cart such as this. So I hope you found that helpful. This is what I use. There are many great kayak manufacturers out there. There are many good companies that can help you with selecting which one works best for you. On the Mississippi Gulf Coast, a company called Everything Kayaks and Bicycles located in Gulfport, Mississippi, not too far from the interstate and Highway 49. They even have an indoor pool where you can try these out. But if you talk to them about what your concerns, whether it's the weight, stability, they have any style that you can imagine for your application, your needs, and they're very good people to work for. Not sponsored by them, but I do business with them because they treat their customers right and they help you not to oversell, but to give you what you need. Thank you for your time. And if you have any questions about kayak or kayak fishing, please send me a comment anytime. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. I hope most of you found that when you have reached out to me that I have responded, and I'll continue to do so. If I don't see you out in the kayak, I'll see you on the coast.